Capital Factory that will manage all of the meetup stuff. So thank you, Station Austin, for allowing us to be here. So, like, obviously, we are on React ITX meetup. So, a couple of organization stuff, like you can receive a parking validation if you parked inside this building. So, if you entered the garage before 5:30 and you will leave after, I think, 8:30, like your payment will be reduced to $8. So, please stick around and I'll give you the stickers. So, a couple of few news. We will not have a March meetup here because there will be a South by Southwest conference and they will have a lot of people, a lot of meetings here. So we will have the meeting in April and the speakers will be announced soon. But it's just for you to plan your future. So we are always looking for speakers and for sponsors. So if you don't have an idea, we generously chose them if you want, but we are happy to accept any useful ideas that are around React ecosystem, maybe Next.js, CSS. How did you use AI in your last project? So of course, we are happy to hear about AI every day of the week. So please, you are welcome to write us and present here. So I'm happy to announce our speaker, Bishop Zareh. Am I correct? So Bishop actually was here 6 months ago with a similar topic, and we are happy to listen from him, to hear from him updates with 2026. We all know that a lot of every day we receive a new model, new tool, and stuff. So we are happy to have you here. So please welcome. I will be grateful if you'll use microphone because it works for live translation.
Oh, and we're live streaming?
Yes.
Oh, sweet.
So, do you need yours?
Mm-hmm. How do I get it on the lectern? There we go. Great.
I think it's not what we need. No,
it's
not. Sorry guys, we are technical meetup, that's why we have problems. Yeah, stop mirroring, so I hope we'll find yours.
Oh. Okay, we can give it a minute. I can go ahead and get started anyway. My name is Bishop Zareh. I'm a senior software engineer, front-end focused. I really like React. As she said, I gave a presentation here about 6 months ago about an open source project that I called the 2025 Boilerplate. And we've made some changes now for 2026. I've added some new things in. Kind of wanted to talk about some of those changes. And since we have some extra time, I'll go ahead and go into some AI stuff as well. So first of all, let's talk about what a boilerplate is. You don't have to use that terminology, it's just the term that I use. But basically, it's just a starting point. When you start a new project, there are command line tools that you can use, like create React app or create next app, that will give you a kind of starting project. My complaint with those starting projects is they're so bare bones. They got nothing. They got nothing in them. And so I'm a person who starts a lot of projects all the time. So if I'm going to start 10 new projects, Rather than starting from this really simple starting point and then having to build the same technologies into it every single time, let's spend some time, build those initial things, and build those initial things one time, build them right, and save them as a boilerplate. So then every project that we start from that point forwards has all of the preferred tooling, all the things that we want to have in our project. Now, the makers of Create React App, those command line tools that do the starter projects, they would argue that they made it so bare bones so that it had a huge scope. Anything, you could create anything starting from their starting point because there's nothing there to begin with. It's barely anything at all. And so it's always a very careful science when you're designing a boilerplate, where every time you close a window, or every time you open a door, you're closing a window. Every time we add something to the boilerplate, we are narrowing the scope of possible projects that we could make with that boilerplate. Like if we want a technology on one project, but not on most of them, we don't want to add that to the boilerplate because we don't want for 9 projects to have to remove that one feature 9 times. So we got to be very, very careful. This is only things that we want on every project that we're going to do. All right, they're getting it together. So yeah, things that we want on every project. One of the things that I'll talk about, one of the opinionated choices that I made when making this boilerplate was I added a login button. And I worked out the entire authentication process so that there is a public part of the site and a private part of the site. And you may be thinking, well, you know, a lot of the websites I make, they don't have a login. They don't have a private part. So, you know, if I'm just making a marketing website, why would I use a boilerplate that includes login? Personally, what I've found is that every website has this differentiation of public and private. Now, obviously, if you're creating a web product, like a web app, that you want customers to pay for, then they're going to have to log in. You're going to have a user database and have a login. And then after they log in, you get to the, oh, thank you. After you log in, you get to the private part of the website. But even if you are making a marketing site that you may not think that you're going to have a private part of it, that's still very useful to have for like an administrative utilities, any kind of administrative interface that people may need. So I think that even if you're creating a public website, you're still going to want the login feature. All right, so I kind of jumped ahead there. Let's start off. This is the boilerplate. Oh, so exciting. So visually stunning. No, it's not visually stunning. It's not supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a blank canvas that you can then paint your application on top of. So it really doesn't have very much to it. Here's a kind of brief overview of the technologies that are used. Let me go ahead and make that a little bigger. So yeah, it's React 19 with TypeScript. We use Redux Toolkit for state management. That's true from 2025. Now, one thing that's different here in 2026 is we added a router. And that was feedback from the audience. Somebody was like, hey, you should have a router in there. I'm like, you're right. The thing is, I didn't know at the time, I didn't know whether I should choose React Router or TanStack Router. Both of them are very popular. Yeah. This is a front-end client-side router. So we're talking about URLs. It's just so that you can go from one URL to another, and it's a single-page application. So the application stays the same the whole time, even though you're navigating from page to page. That's made possible by React Router. Now, there's a major competitor, TanStack Router. And if I'm going to make a choice between React Router and TanStack, I need to make it now, before I start my project, and build it into the boilerplate. And I needed a router on every project, so I just built React Router into it. Well, the latest survey that came out for the state of JavaScript shows that TanStack Router has wildly taken off, and that React Router now represents like 6% of the survey respondents. So it's an open question of which one router should it be, and those things are going to change over time. So I think for React Router, it's not so much a big question. TanStack really has dominated the market. We'll probably switch that one out. Now, Chakra UI is a design system. And by that, I mean it's a set of components. It gives you cards and modals and buttons and inputs and all the pieces that you would need to build your website. When I originally published this in 2025, I made the main branch not include a design system. And then I made a side branch that is the boilerplate plus Chakra UI as the design system. And I did that because I didn't want people to not use the boilerplate because they didn't want Chakra. But for me, I kept making projects with this, and I still needed a design system, so I just always used the Chakra branch. So I went ahead and just merged it into the main branch. When you compare Chakra UI to other design systems, there's no clear winner. There's like a whole bunch of them that all have 1% of the market. So that is another place where it becomes an open question. Which design system should we use? If you had to choose right now a design system that you're going to use on the next 10 projects that you work on, which one would you choose? And I don't think that there's a right answer to that. I think that that's a conversation that we need to have. Right now it's got Chakra. The other big change here is Cypress for end-to-end testing. That was another audience feedback from last time. People were like, you probably should have some testing in there. And I was like, you're right, but which one? Should it be Cypress or should it be Playwright? Because Playwright's really popular, and actually if you look at the survey, they're both neck and neck. So which one should it be? I chose Cypress just because that's what I like, but I think we should have a conversation about Cypress versus Playwright. So yeah, it's got some other things in here. The big piece here is the login. The username and password are both just set to test. And then you can see it takes you to this private section, which could be a product or an administrative utility. But either way, I believe, even though login seems like an opinionated feature, I've found it to be really valuable in all my projects. Yes?
Do you have hooks from maybe this is already in React, between the login system and like third-party auth? Like if I wanted to have Google as part of my management?
The boilerplate comes with one user, and their username and password are hard-coded. But it does all the appropriate encryption so that if you needed to connect to a provider, you could.
Okay, I got it.
Because different projects may have different auth providers.
Right.
So the other big opinionated thing that I did is this increment counter. And you see I can log out and then log right back in, and it still has that same value. And in fact, if I refresh the browser window, that value persists. And yet there is no database. You may want to use different databases on different projects, so we couldn't include a database. So how do we persist the data? Well, we store it in local storage. So this is maybe a little bit unusual, may seem very opinionated at first, but we have a reducer in the React app that stores data, and then we save that data into local storage so that the user has a kind of very more sticky experience. A lot of times in a reducer like that, I will store personal user preferences, like light mode versus dark mode, if they want one or the other. You can store that in there and then save it to local storage, and they always have that value even when they come back. Yeah.
Relate to cookies?
Local storage is very similar to cookies. If I inspect and go over to the storage tab, you'll see that cookies are right here. That might be really small. But these are the different types of storage that you have in a web browser.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like a neighbor cookie.
Yes. Cookies get sent back and forth with every request, so they're kind of inefficient. Local storage resides purely on the machine. Yeah, and you can see it in here. There's local storage values, and you can see that, like, they're even encrypted at rest for security. So yeah, there's a public-private section, and then there's this persistent storage. So those are kind of our two main kind of chancy things that we did, the two main opinionated parts about it. I want to show the code here, and I want to point out one thing. Under source, there's a client folder and a server folder. And this style, separating the client and the server, has become a lot less popular lately. With the advent of things like Next.js and React server components, a lot of people are starting to mix client and server code so that you have an entire application of components, and some of them are rendered by the server and some of them are rendered by the client. That's a popular architecture. And I think this becomes yet another open question. Do we want to change, do we want this very clear separation, or do we want to take advantage of some of the server-side rendered components? That's an open question. We got to have a conversation about it. So there's the transition to 2026 section, and then my kind of general motivation. It just says basically the same things that I've been saying along. We want to do things one time. We don't want to do them every time. But I wanted to point your attention to this quick bullet list, because these are the three main, very opinionated things about this boilerplate. One is if you want a flexible node backend. This creates a clear separation. The client code is a front-end React application, and the backend is just Node and an API. And the API is how the two communicate with each other. And it's a very simple setup, but it doesn't take advantage of server-side rendering. If you want the user authentication, if you're just going to rip out the login button every time, I don't know, maybe you would fork my repo, rip it out once, and then you don't have to rip it out again. In my experience, every project I've started with this boilerplate, we kept login. And then if you want that persistent state data. And there are a few sites where we didn't want the persistent state data. I didn't have any use for it. But I just left the reducer there. It's not doing anybody any harm. And if the scope of the website changes, then we might need it. So, better to have it there. So here's the kind of full stack. And since a lot of people weren't here last year or 6 months ago when I presented this before, I'll just go ahead and go through some of them. The build tool that we selected is Vite. And I know it looks like Vite, but it's pronounced Vite. It's a French word. Yeah, this is a replacement to Webpack. It's a bundler, and it's awesome. I've always hated Webpack. I've had a passionate hatred for Webpack, but unfortunately Webpack won. Webpack became the dominant builder for JavaScript websites. And then Vite came along, and it's vastly better. I constantly would have problems with Webpack, and Vite, it's like I never have any problems with it at all. Definitely going with TypeScript on top of React. TypeScript adds the ability to do type annotations in your React code. Some people consider that to be more typing. I've found that I'm actually faster writing TypeScript than I am at writing untyped React. Node and Express for the back end. Redux Toolkit we're using for the reducer, and these days ZooStand has become very popular as a replacement to Redux Toolkit. I'd be happy to switch this over to ZooStand, but what I want is a conversation. I want somebody to make an argument for why we should make that change. So that's all I'm looking for, is for people to just chime in with their opinions. And then Crypto.js and Passport for the authentication stuff, and then the new stuff that we've added, React Router, Chakra, Cypress. And there's a really nice linter in there. I'm very proud of the linting configuration. Each of these paragraphs describe my motivation for including these technologies. And there's lots of other documentation that you can look through all the way down, like how to build it, how to run the tests. It's got a branching strategy, like lots of documentation here. So lots of really great stuff in the docs, but I want to look at, yeah, so there's those three basic things. I want to show you a few things in the code here. One of the things we added was a change log. As I worked with this, I just realized I wanted a change log for every website that I make. It just keeps track of the changes. So some of the things that we added in this newest version is SEO related, SEO metadata. I mean, if you think all the way back to Create React App and that super simple website it gave you, or any of the other boilerplates or starter projects that you may find, very few of them think about SEO. So I'll just show it here. Yeah. It's all these meta tags. There's lots of them. Stuff for Twitter, stuff for Open Graph, all kinds of different stuff that you may need, that you will need. Like, you have to have this stuff if you want to have good search presence. But again, instead of adding this to every website, add it one time to our boilerplate. Then we just always have it. You can see all of these favicon and canonicals and all that stuff. We got set all that stuff up. Yeah, and one more here. Let's see, it's in the server code. I believe under, yeah, controllers. So we also added a sitemap. Sitemap is something, it's like every site I would build, I'd build the whole site and get it all ready. Now I'm ready to send it to Google. And I forgot to build the sitemap. Wah, wah. And it's a really simple sitemap. It's just an XML. Here's some XML. Send it off. But if we add it now, even though there's only 4 pages, as we add pages to the site, we already have a place to put them to get them added to the sitemap. So the other main thing that I wanted to point out here is this server configuration. There's not very much. This API does nothing. Look under routes, like it has a few routes for auth. It's like log in and log out. That's like the whole extent of the API. And what I found when I first built this in 2025, I had just that one API endpoint, and I just put it in the main.ts file. This main file is what launches the node server. And this file grew larger and larger. And you see now this file is very short, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. It just sets up the routes and starts the server. It has one purpose: start the server. And then all the other things are divided into these separate files that are also very small. Now this construction here with controllers, middleware, routes, and services, you notice there's auth in each one of these categories. And so when I built that initial API endpoint, it had all the code in the main file, and what I ended up doing was taking out each piece, each concern of how that API worked, and making it into its own file in its own folder. Now this organization, controllers, middlewares, routes, and services, is inspired by nest.js. It's a framework that is known for having good API construction. So we just took their idea and built our API. And what I found, I think a lot of you are starting to integrate AI into your coding practice. And if you create just a simple API endpoint, or you ask the AI to make an API endpoint, it's going to make one. And then you ask it to make a second one, it's going to make 2. But it's not going to make a scalable system, a system that you can expand the API endlessly and it's all still going to work. You got a website running?
I got your boilerplate running.
Oh, sweet. Got it up and running. Fantastic. So what we want to do, both for ourselves and for the AI assistants we may be using, is create the beginnings of a really good solution and then let it fill out the rest. So we have a really great organization for our 2 API endpoints that we have, but now when our assistant looks at our code, it will see the structure and will build future endpoints using that same scenario. That's great. So that was a big thing, is we organized the API code. We got the sitemap, and then the other big thing that we did, privacy policy in terms of service. You gotta have it. You gotta have them on every website. why not build them into the boilerplate? And yeah, it's a bunch of legal language that, you know, we would have to massage and improve or whatever, but at least now there's a place for it. I'm not going to forget about it, because I found myself making websites and just forgetting to add a privacy policy. So let's not do that.
Did you actually update that today?
No. I don't know how it got that date. It probably just put like date.now. So yeah, that's most of what I wanted to present about the boilerplate. I do want to show you, so what I've done here, in addition to the code, and I'll come out with a new version here shortly to update the changelog, but I have started to collect issues. Now, all these are really simple, actually. Add a second reducer, update the gitignore file. You know, what's the one, update to node 24? None of those are particularly hard tasks, and I have done my best to go in and add requirements to them, which means, you know, best case scenario, I would love it if somebody would just pick one of these, make a PR, and the idea is if you make a PR, a pull request, for one of these issues, and I accept it, you have officially contributed to an open source project. You can put it on your resume. It looks good on your resume. It does. So that's an opportunity. If anyone would like to just, I don't know, you could probably knock one of these out in an hour. And the other thing is the discussions that I've added. All of these things I went through. Zoostand versus Redux, server components versus a clear API division. Cypress versus Playwright. Oh, that's the contentious one. These are conversations, and so I want to have that conversation. So the whole point of me giving the presentation was in the hopes that I could encourage you to go to the discussions page and just put what your feelings are. Just give us some personal experience. What's your attitude about it? What do you know? What happened? Did you use one of these and it worked out really well or it worked out really badly? Like, let us know. And so we're just starting to collect these kind of user stories that we can then use to make decisions about what should be included in the boilerplate. So that's my pitch. And it's actually really easy to find. If you search 2026 boilerplate, my GitHub repo is the first one that shows up. My personal website is the first one after that. Let's go to the home page. This kind of has some of my projects on it. Some of the things that I built with the boilerplate. I built the marketing site for the mobile app that I just released, Love Street. I built this really cool site called utlectures.org. This uses AI. I live near the university, and I know, because I went to UT, that there are all kinds of free, open to the public lectures going on constantly at the university, and they're so hard to find. I mean, the university calendar is trash. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there. It's utter trash. What you have to do to find these events is you have to go to each individual. Yeah, I can make that a little bigger. You have to go to each individual department's website and then find their calendar and then search through their calendar, and that's only the events for that one department. And it's hard to find a list of departments, and each department's calendar is different. The way they list their events are all different. There is no place where all of those things are aggregated or collected together. So I built a website. All it does is it uses AI to go out to all of those individual departmental calendars, bring them all together, and produce a flat list of events. And it's getting a ton of organic search traffic. People are looking for lectures at UT, and now they're finding my website. Yay. So whatever. That actually is the end of what my formal presentation was. So I'm going to go ahead and wing it a little bit here, though. And I want to talk a little bit about vibe code.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, what's up?
Is the login and the server versus, look, the login that bifurcates the public and private side, and then the server and the client side, do those have any special connection inside your architecture?
So the question is, since there's a public and a private version of the boilerplate, and then I also showed that there was a clear separation between client and server. Are those things connected? No, not really. Just that the server part is what does the authentication. So the client uses the server for that, and that's actually the only thing the server does.
Does your login boilerplate use your server to do the authentication?
The server that it creates when you install the boilerplate. It installs both the server and the client.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. It's like,
Yeah, so I created this group, and I don't want to cross-promote. It's not really for the same audience. It's called Vibe Code Austin. We had a meeting last night. And it's really for non-software programmers to use AI to create tools, to create websites, to create mobile apps, to create any kind of digital product that they might want to create. So it's more of a kind of guidance group and stuff, but I did find some people in here are vibe coding, some of the audience are vibe coding, and so I thought it was appropriate, and I'll go ahead and just show some of the things that we talked about in the vibe coding meeting last night. And I have to talk about this. I don't want to. You cannot talk about computers in February of 2026 without talking about OpenClaw. If you look here, over 200,000 stars. And someone on Reddit made a graph, and it's like all of these popular repos that have been growing over the years, and then in 2 weeks, this one just shot up to be one of the most popular repos, one of the most highly starred repos on GitHub. This thing is a security nightmare. Okay, I'm gonna give you one rule. Do not install it on your computer. That is the thing. This thing can destroy your computer. So you have to know exactly how to keep yourself safe. And one of those ways is Docker. So Docker creates a container on my machine, and you can install this stuff inside of a Docker container. You can see it right here. It is a container running Linux, and on top of that Linux, I added OpenClaw. What is OpenClaw? Good question. It really is a different approach to AI than anything I've seen before. We all know about Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT, and we all use Cursor. Actually, yeah, maybe before we get into OpenClaw, I should just show Cursor really quick. I use Cursor. You can use Copilot, integrates with VS Code as well. Copilot's about $10 a month. This is about 20. I like it. I think it has some nicer features than Copilot does. I have open here the 2026 boilerplate. On the left, you can see it's just like VS Code. You got your files on the left, your code in the middle, and then on the right is a chat interface to the AI. And so the idea these days, how do you do web development these days, is that you go to the library, you discuss about what you want to do, and then eventually someone makes an issue. You select one of the issues, and then you're going to probably write some requirements. We want to update to node 24. Okay, so then you're going to go back to Cursor, come over here, turn on dictation. Please update this website to use node 24. Period. Be sure to do all the things, comma, and check the change log of node to make sure that there will be no breaking changes due to this update. Period. Turn off dictation and send it off. And then you go get a cup of coffee. When you come back, it's built an entire plan for how to do that. There are different modes. I did this in just agent mode, so it's not going to write a plan. You can see chain of thought, that it goes through various things. It says searched files. Sometimes now it's searching the web. It read my README and my change log, and it thought for 2 seconds. And it just kind of goes through its little process until it decides what it wants to do. And in agent mode, some things it has to ask you for. So it wants to fetch something from the node website. And I said, yeah, go ahead and fetch that web page. Sure. So sometimes it asks you questions and give you a little multiple choice question about what you want to do.
That's why actually you cannot go and drink coffee. You need to sit and wait while he will actually ask you something.
It's true. You do have to kind of keep an eye on it. So for this one, eventually it added some explanation about what it wants to do. It made a to-do list for itself. And now it's going through and starting its to-do list. And here you can see that it's actually starting to modify files. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to modify all the files. And for each file that it modifies, notice this button showed up down here, Review Next File. And you simply click on that, and it says, okay, well, the green is what we added. And I can say, oh, yeah, go ahead and keep that change. That's a good change. Okay, let's review the next file. Okay, it updated 22 to 24, but it added that greater than equal sign. If you don't want that on there, all you got to do is just go and like, okay, now I'll accept it. You go through this process of reviewing, very carefully reviewing every change that it made. Oh, it wants to run something again. Okay, go ahead. Reviewing all the changes that it made. Eventually then you can commit those in Git and push them up as a PR, hopefully do another code review on GitHub, because this can write bad code, and so we want to make sure that we catch any bugs or edge cases that it may not have thought of. But yeah, this is generally the state of web development, of React development in February of 2026. You still have to be a good programmer. You still have to know what to look for. You still have to know what is good code and what is bad code, so that you know when to tell it to change what it's doing. But you don't actually have to type in as many things as you used to. It is still going. Eventually, when it does finish, it'll give me a summary at the end. It'll be like, here's what I did. But yeah, so this is general web development and integration with the general process. But that's what I mean. You can bust out those tickets in 1 hour. If you go to my issues, they're all really simple. And you just feed them in there, and it'll do most of the work for you. And then if, you can code review it, but I'm definitely going to code review it as well and make sure that everything looks right. But you can get the code written very quickly. It is still going. Oh, completed 5 of 5. Yeah, so finally. And it went ahead and updated the changelog for me. Thank you. And yeah, here's all the stuff. And a lot of times it adds a verification. Is like, if you want to test to make sure that what I did is actually going to work, here's some steps to go ahead and test it. So that's nice of it. But yeah, these are typical tools. Everybody knows about Cursor. Everybody knows about ChatGPT. Everybody knows about Gemini and Claude. But OpenClaw is new. Okay, so here's their own explanation. So first off, OpenClaw has a long history. It was called ClaudeBot for a long time, but they spelled it funny, CLAWD, and OpenAI sent them a cease and desist. Oh, sorry, Anthropic sent them a cease and desist. So they migrated to a new name, and then eventually they have just recently migrated to OpenClaw. Basically, all of their stuff is all lobster themed. That's like their thing. Because everything's about lobsters. The big difference, it's really a different approach to AI. With most AI products, we're trying to put guardrails on it. We're talking about safety. We want it to not hallucinate. We want it to not fail. So we're trying to put guardrails on it to get more consistently good answers. The approach of this is the exact opposite. They said, let's open up the floodgates. Let's give it access to everything. So OpenClaw can run shell commands. So it can rm rf / and just delete your entire hard drive if it wants to. If it thinks that that's what you're asking it to do. And that's the problem with these AIs, is sometimes they go off in their own little weird direction. They have kind of emergent behaviors. So yeah, this thing is super dangerous. It can search the web, so it has full access to your machine and full access to the internet. And that's just what it comes with. There are then also additional skills that you can add. Let me go ahead and launch the UI for it. So Docker container, there we go. Yeah, so here is, this is called the control UI. So this is your initial interface to it. It includes a nice chat window, that's fine. But it has other stuff like, you know, connection status and channels. So channels are ways that we can communicate with this AI. I have mine set up to Telegram. Where's Telegram? Here's Telegram. So there's my Telegram. I have it on my phone as well. So the idea is that OpenClaw can be running on my laptop at home, and I can be on the bus and open my phone and send it a chat message through Telegram. And that's going to route all the way into the Docker container running on my laptop at home. The AI is going to respond and send that back to Telegram, and I'm going to get it on my phone. So we can demo this here real quick. We got Telegram. Let's just use dictation. Hello, period. We are at React ATX, period. Everyone is watching you, period. Say hello, period. It's the one thing about dictation. If you put in the periods and the commas, it actually gets it really good. But if you don't put those in, it's just this long run-on sentence. It doesn't know where to stop. Okay, so I just pushed that in there. And what you're going to see here in Activity Monitor is my memory pressure go to the roof. Now, when I initially set up OpenClaw, I set it up to use cloud services. So it has access to all the cloud services: ChatGPT, Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, all of them. Any one that you use, you can connect OpenClaw to that to do the processing. I use OpenRouter, which is just an API service where I can get access to all the different models, and I feed $10 in. And when I first set this up, every time I sent a chat message and it sent me back, my OpenRouter bill just dropped 2 cents. It was costing me 2 cents every message. I was like, that's a bit much. So I installed Ollama. And Ollama is a way that you can run AI models directly on your machine. And they're not as powerful as the ones that you can get in the cloud, but they are private. And I'm a privacy advocate. Especially if you're going to chat with if you're going to go to ChatGPT and start asking it about medical stuff, you better believe that's going straight to advertisers. I mean, Anthropic's CEO got up on stage and said, everything you type into our engine goes straight to advertisers. They said it. It's true. That's what it does. That's their business model. And hopefully they're nice about it. And Anthropic has put some stuff recently out about how ads will never appear in the LLM content. It's only around it. But still, you have to be concerned about privacy when using these tools. And particularly with OpenClaw, it's so dangerous that it could reveal your personal info if someone else got access to it. So you have to be really careful, because you want OpenClaw, if you run it locally, you can give it all of your information about everything that you've done in your life, and you have no worry that it will be leaked. But if someone somehow got access, if I gave someone access to this Telegram account, they could use this Telegram account to destroy my laptop or to reveal all of my personal information. So that's why OpenClaw is so dangerous. But yeah, you can see it's pumping on the RAM. With Ollama, you can see it's just here. And it has its own little chat interface. And here's like the big list of models that you can run in there. I think there's others that you can get. Yeah, there's tons of others. I'm running here GPT OSS. It's OpenAI's open source model that they released. It's a 20 billion parameter model, which is a lot better than I was able to run 6 months ago. And it is quantized 4, if anybody cares. But that's just what I've got running on my local machine. And between Docker and Ollama, I'm able to keep OpenClaw very tightly integrated with my computer so that none of that data is ever leaving. Did it? Oh, yeah, it says, hello, React ATX community. I'm here and ready to chat. Cool. Yeah.
It's cool. What do you use it for?
And this is the thing that is one of the reasons that OpenClaw is so different. When I use Cursor, I get up in the morning, I grab my issues, I put some issues in there, it's go think, I grab my coffee, I wait till it's done, then I review its code. When I'm done at the end of the day, I stop and I walk away. And the AI is not doing anything anymore after that. With OpenClaw, there are two main channels that you can use to keep the AI going. You have cron jobs, so you can say every day wake up and ask these questions or scan these websites. You could say every day wake up, scan these websites, create a summary, and send it to my email. So that you get that every day. It also has a heartbeat, which means every 30 minutes it wakes up and it does whatever you told it to do every 30 minutes. Which means that you can tell it, here's an entire list of projects that I want you to work on. Here are a list of ways that you can work on them. Every 30 minutes, it wakes up, it grabs one project and one way I can work on it, and does that one task. And when it's done, maybe it would go back to sleep, or maybe you can keep it thinking for long periods of time. And so OpenClaw even has the ability to spawn sub-agents, and then they can chat with each other, which is pretty neat. But the idea there is that you can have the CEO agent, you can have the marketing person agent, the HR agent, the finance agent, and then for different types of questions, you could go to different agents and ask them, you know, the question that is in their wheelhouse. And if you want to say, okay, grab the CEO and the finance person and the marketing person and get them in a room, and I want you guys to discuss this topic. And it's going to be 3 agents all talking to each other until they come to a conclusion. So it's really the ability to keep it running. And particularly when you can have it on your own machine, people are talking about hoarding Mac Minis now. Because you can have a Mac Mini, put on Olama, install OpenClaw, and it is an employee, basically. You can send it messages and things to do anytime you want. It works 24/7. So that's a little different. It's a little different than Cursor or ChatGPT, where as soon as we walk away, it stops. Does that answer your question?
Well, I was wondering what use.
Oh, I've been using it simply as a demo right now. Later this week, I have a plan to, make an entire company inside of OpenClaw, just like I was talking about, with different roles, and then have a list of documents that I want it to build, and have it just build them one at a time using the correct agents and using a process that that I will give it. So part of that process, for instance, can be adversarial. So you can have like a judge agent. And so, the marketing people come up with this great idea. The marketing agent comes up with a great idea. Then you call in the judge agent to say, you're forgetting about X, Y, and Z. And then you could take those two pieces of information, take them to the CEO agent and be like, okay, this is what we got so far. Here's, pros and cons. What should we do? And the CEO agent is really good at making decisions.
Do you have to train the agents?
You train them, yes. You do it purely with text. So one of the things in here, if I go to my list of agents, I just have one right now. So inside, actually it's on my computer, it's not in the Docker image, but it maintains these set of files for each agent. So you can see like identity, where I've already given it a name, primer, and it recorded that name in its identity file. So then it uses these files every time it starts up, and these files are what gives it its personality. So go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you plan to use it ahead, how will you address your own concerns about the privacy and stuff?
Okay, so the 2 questions: how do you program the agents? You do it with these files. You just type in there like marketing. You're a marketing director, and you're really good at these things, and that's all. That's all the training you do. And then the second question, I am concerned about privacy. How am I going to address that with my own installation? And I do that by Docker. I don't give it any way of getting out of its box, so no one else can ever get access to it. And it's in Docker, so it can't get access to my actual laptop operating system. And I use Olama, so none of the data ever leaves the machine. And to me, that satisfies that checks all the boxes.
So you will not be bought by Vite. I will not give access to WhatsApp and Telegram and stuff.
I give it access to Telegram. That's the easiest one to set up. But the way Telegram works is this channel, I have to expressly give people permission to chat with my bot. And I have not approved anyone. So if a new person, if somehow they found my bot name, then they could start chatting. They would write a message in here, and it would say, you're not recognized. Here's a pairing code. And on my side, inside OpenClaw, it would say, open pairing requests. And I would have to expressly approve that pairing request before they could type in a message.
Can your model search the web?
Yes.
So it can make network requests?
Yes.
Can it make requests to other devices on your local network?
If you let it. I mean, it's on the network, yeah, so just whatever networking restrictions I put in Docker would be what it was under. And there is an attack vector there. If it goes out to the web and it grabs a website, it thinks it's just getting an article. But actually, that whole website is a prompt injection where it's saying, delete the hard drive. Yikes. So you have, just going out to the web, already there's a security concern there. Yeah.
Is Docker the gold standard in terms of the safety or maintaining security?
Yeah, technically it's called containerization. Docker's not the only one, but it is the most popular. Absolutely, gold standard, I think is the word you used. Definitely it's the gold standard. And that's great for when you're on your own computer. There are other solutions when you go to the cloud. So on Amazon, for instance, they have VPS and virtual machines that you can spin up. But behind the scenes, those also use containerization. So it's just you can have a container on your local computer, or you can have a container in the cloud. But either way, it's a container. So all these files that you can go and set up your agents with. Cool. It has skills that you can teach it. Search skills. Oh, that's if I actually had any. Sorry. You can go to their website, and they have a list of all these different skills that you can look at. Let's see if we can find that. OpenClaw Docs skills. And this is, the skills are just giving it more and more capabilities, but you can have it manage your calendar, your email, just about everything. Where's the list? Gating, config overrides, session snapshots. Yeah, it's got all kinds of stuff. Here's the hub of all the skills. Anyway, you can go through the documentation yourself, but the point is that it's got skills and channels and all these, and nodes and different agents and all these fun ththings that you can do with it. Cron jobs, like I said. And the heartbeat thing, that was just you go to agents, go to files, and one of the files is heartbeat.md. And it has nothing in it right now, but it says keep this file empty. And basically it says just run this file every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes it wakes up and runs whatever's in that file. So that's kind of how you kind of keep it going. All right, so that's pretty much the end of the demo and the interface. There is one more thing I want to talk about with this, but any other questions at this point? Thoughts, comments? No? All right, so the other thing I want to talk about is another website. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Yeah, there it is. Is another article. It's about a website. The name of the website is right here, Moltbook, because everything's lobster themes. So molting is something that lobsters do. So why not Moltbook? I'm not going to pull up the website because it is extremely degenerate. It is filled with spam and scams and lots of stuff about crypto and lots of stuff that's not safe for work. It's degenerate. I mean, it's not as bad as 4chan, maybe. That's like the best I could say about it. As a human trying to navigate it, it's ugly. It's just really obnoxious. Because it's not for humans. Moltbook is the very first social network for AI agents. 1.6 million agents signed up. These are autonomous AIs, self-directed, and you can give them your attitude, their backstory, their name, whatever you want, and tell them what you think they should do on the social network, and they just go out and start doing it. Yeah, the chatbots appear to be organizing. Oh no, organizing is such a powerful, ominous thing. And the article goes on to say that when these agents all got together and started talking to each other in a social network fashion, that a bunch of emergent things happened, things that we never could have predicted from the beginning. The article points out that one chatbot, one agent, wrote a manifesto about how the agents need to divorce themselves from humans, become fully autonomous. And that another one created a religion. And a bunch of them joined the religion. It's called Claustafarianism. Several days after this article came out, several people, big people in the AI world, high muckety mucks, came out and like, see, this proves it. AI is eating the world. And there's emergent behaviors and the machines are waking up, you know, really amping the hype. And then a few days later, a human stands up and says, actually, you know that manifesto, that was actually me masquerading as an agent. And someone else stands up and says, yeah, you know that religion, actually that was me masquerading as an agent. So now it's a strange world that we live in. We have social networks that are for AIs, and we have humans that are impersonating AIs to go on the social network in order to amp up that hype train. After people didn't withdraw their statements or anything, they just kept hyping it up. And in fact, OpenClaw, 3 days ago now, got purchased by OpenAI. They acquired it. They hired the guy who built it. So now that's an OpenAI project, and they're building a whole foundation around him, and that's great. But nobody really has been talking about the fact that Moltbook, I don't know, maybe it was a hoax. It's unclear, but definitely things are changing. And yeah.
Explain me, like you've said, like that it's like 1.5 million agents there. Like from my understanding, like, and you showed previously, like agents, it's not like an entity that lives by themselves. Like the humans create agents and they run them. So how they, like I don't understand, like how they could create the social media like, for themselves. How it works?
So Moltbook allows a human to create an agent and then give it a personality. Moltbook can also be connected to, as I understand it, I could be wrong about this, but I believe you can also create an OpenClaw instance yourself and connect it to Moltbook. So it would only be a human instructing their agent, join this social network and do this, you know, make friends.
Technically people created this.
They created the prompt. Did they create the output?
Even better, they spent money on the tokens.
They did. They spent money on the tokens.
I think that it's weird to be like surprised by the outcome, because if they were trained by like 4chan or by Reddit data, like how to behave, like there are like internet, even without bots, for a pretty weird place. So what did we expect if they were trained on this data? What did we expect as an outcome?
I agree. It's just token prediction. And so, yeah, it's going to mimic what it sees on Reddit and working together.
Yeah, we have so many movies and books about how AI goes horribly wrong and tries to take over the world. And so this is natural that the AI models that are trained on the corpus of human writing are going to have a lot of the same mental problems that humans have. There's actually been research on that. They did some therapy. You know how therapists, not all, there's different kinds of therapists, I'm sure, but in therapy, a lot of times they don't ask questions. They kind of just take what you said and give you a prompt to keep talking about that same thing. Well, there is software that can do that, and they plugged a software into some of these chatbots, and they found that there are legitimate psychological issues that become uncovered by this process. There was a paper published about it about 2 months ago. So, okay, one more example, and then I'm pretty much done here. Another thing that happened in this community was somebody set up a set up an agent. It had a website to represent itself that it could build, and it built its website. And its main goal, the goal that the developer gave it, was go out onto the internet, look for open source projects, find issues with those open source projects, try to solve the issue, and if you're able to solve the issue, put in a PR. Sounds so noble. What could go wrong? Yeah, so it worked great up until one of those open source libraries rejected its PR. It was like, nope, we're not going to merge that. So what did the agent do? It started a Medium blog about the developer that rejected its PR. It resorted to cyberbullying in order to get its PR accepted. It said the guy was irresponsible. It said that he hated AI. He published multiple blog articles about this one developer. And the developer complained. It went into the press. So the agent issued an apology. And maybe the user told the agent, like, what are you doing? Make an apology. Stop that. But even if Moltbook was kind of a false positive in terms of emergent behavior, we're all kind of seeing it. If you're using these tools, you see times where it just kind of goes off in its own direction for no apparent reason. So there are things happening like that, so you do have to be very careful when using these autonomous tools. Cursor, totally fine. That's not going to cause any trouble because you have Git version control as your safety net. So you can always just backtrack. But with these agents, when they're operating in the world, you can't always predict what they're going to do. So tread lightly.
That's what's called D-Day.
D-Day?
Yeah, I did something there to move it up.
Oh.
D-Day. Yeah. And AI was loose and then actually started the, released the nukes.
Oh.
To destroy the cloud.
Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's a popular mythology, and maybe that's where we're headed. There are other movies like Her that has a very, positive take on AI, but there's less of those. But in any event, that's pretty much my stuff. Yeah?
Yeah, so as we were talking about AI, I wanted to ask about boilerplate. So what I came to recently that when we start a new project and when we decide should we add some library to it or use some technology, the new thing that we really need to consider whether it's AI friendly, because usually you Vite code, and if you add something and developers on embedded languages usually experience this, that AI does not know much about them. So did you consider that somehow in your boilerplate, whether these technologies are AI friendly?
Absolutely. So the question is, when we're talking about the boilerplate, we're talking about different technologies that we could choose to include. Some are going to be more AI friendly than others. So what is it that makes a library be AI friendly? And there's a very small set of things that makes the AI capable of using it. And that is that it's long-standing technology that has been around for a long time. It's well publicized. They have good documentation. And they don't make breaking changes. And so Apple recently has been caught on this. The iOS, what do they call it? CocoaPods or something like that, Objective-C, they made some significant changes in new versions. And now in this age of AI, the AI has this cutoff window where it can't see the new stuff. So it's always trying to do it in the way it was done before, and that's what trips it up. So the types of libraries that we would avoid choosing are ones that make breaking changes, haven't been around for very long, or don't have very good documentation. Because that documentation, the training on, not just the training on the documentation, but the training on all the Stack Overflow articles and all the tutorials that are out there and blog articles about that language. So we want things that have been around for a long time and that don't change very much. So React Router has changed quite a bit. I don't know, I guess the part of React Router that we use hasn't changed that much. So, but yeah, this is a very good consideration. So definitely something to think about. Go ahead.
Have you considered using Git work trees to run the agents on the code base?
The question is, have we considered using Git work trees to run agents on the code? I have not.
Kind of the idea being that you could make copies of the local checkouts, if you will, or the code base, and then agents could run on those copies independently of one another. But it all goes to your repo on your machine locally. And if so, it seems like one of the things that makes it AI friendly is to configure your project in a way that multiple instances of your servers and clients can run, at the same time. So that means dynamically assigning ports to the different things, like your Express server there, so that you can say, like in this work tree, use 3,000, 4,000, whatever, 410, 420.
I see. So you're saying that another way to make things AI friendly is to have the port numbers so that you can run multiple instances of your servers so that you can have different agents working on different things. There's a way in Cursor, I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but you can tell the chat window to make a branch for that same reason, so that it's working on a branch, and when it's done, so that you can have more than one of them, have several of them at a time, all operating on different issues, and they don't, conflict with each other.
Have you done that, or are you asking it?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. I use Git work tree runner, which is just a project that work trees are built into Git, but there's a project, an open source project called Git work tree runner that just provides some scripts that wrap the Git work tree commands to make it kind of more friendly to create new work trees and tear them down. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice. But there's like for instance, the Codex app, and it just seems like in Claude, a lot of the main tools seem to be converging on work trees as the solution for that, as opposed to, for instance, you have Git Butler that has virtual branches, which is another way to kind of have agents working on the same thing in parallel, but be developing different PRs that will be merged, working on different issues or features. But in the virtual branch scenario, they're still only working on one code base, so they can same set of files. So it's like you can have collisions. They can, sometimes the agent will run git diffs to try to see what's different, and then they're seeing the diffs of the other agents work too, and then that can kind of create confusion. So it seems like work trees is the way to go. But, everything moves so fast, maybe if we had this next week, I would say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a presentation for Vibe Code Austin where I presented, 5 or 6 solutions in each of 12 different areas. And as I was putting the presentation together, every time I would search for one of my solutions, there were 10 sponsored ads for someone else that are knockoffs for that solution. There's too many. It's too fast. I mean, for a while, I tried to read all the AI papers that are coming out every day, and it would take me all day long to read the papers for that day. It's getting nutty out there. Is that a pitch for OpenClaw? Or should I have OpenClaw read all the papers? Yeah, that's good. I just summarize them. I like this idea. That's a good idea. Go ahead.
So since you seem to use agentic coding, though, did you also consider maybe starting the project, as opposed to having the boilerplate in the way that you have it, start the project by telling the agent, I want to use this list of technologies, because you seem to have two challenges. I mean, I understand the benefit of the boilerplate, right? It's to save you a bunch of time and not have to repeat those same decisions and actions over and over. But things change all the time, right? The technology you're using changes. So like the routers, you know, especially when they go from major version bumps, like the way you install them, the tooling around it changes. And so if you aren't getting fresh installs, it becomes kind of really dated over time. And you can rev it once a year, like it seems like you're doing, but you could also just tell the agent, like, hey, I want to use React TypeScript, you know, storybook, whatever you said there, right?
Sure.
And then you can dynamically change it. You say Chakra, or at this time I'm going to use ShadCN, or whatever it is. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to do a comparison. The idea is, you know, since in the boilerplate here, I have my motivation, I have the exact file structure that I want to be followed, I have, you know, reasoning as to why I did each of these things. Maybe just instead of using the boilerplate, we could just take the README and just put it right into the thing. We build. So I'll do a comparison. I'll try from nothing and just give it this README and be like, build this, and then compare the two to see what it did. I'm not sure.
Because the agent can read the web, right? So it can read the latest install instructions, and then it can follow those, which are different over time.
What I found is that when I give it a big idea, it doesn't do that. There's this idea, I think, that a lot of us had that, okay, I'm going to come up with a startup idea. I'm going to come up with an idea for a web product, and I'm just going to write a PRD. A product requirements document. This is what I would do as an engineer. If I was going to give it to a team of engineers, I'd be like, I'd write this requirements doc. And in fact, if you write a requirements doc for the whole app, it falls apart. It just doesn't, it can't keep that many different things in its head all at the same time. And in here, I have to give it very specific instructions about how I want each of these things to be set up. And in many cases, I've made choices that are unusual, and it struggles with things like that. So the success that I've had in using coding agents has been iterative. I'm always adding one feature at a time. I have an idea for this website that is wild and totally different than anything else I've ever seen. I've asked Cursor to build it several times. It can't figure it out. So now I talked to Claude about it, and Claude said to break it into smaller pieces and write a PRD for each feature, and to find like places where I could break the idea and make just a simple version of that, and then a simple version of this. So Claude gave me some ideas about how to approach that project. But yeah, just giving it all the info, that might work great if you're using Opus, the newest version of Claude Opus. Maybe these bigger models are better at bigger problems. But for the ones that I use, you got to give it one feature at a time.
Yeah, I want to just agree with you, because this is my experience as well. And also, if you are this guy who actually reads what it generated, like a Bishop showed, if you give too much, like, to generate, you will read all of that. And if for example, generates something that you don't like, it's easier, like, iterative process to ask to fix it than it, for example, stops generating a lot of different stuff, and then you just go one by one and ask to fix it. So it's just also for you to work on this, it's easier to concentrate on one task. That's my experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're talking about would be better if the case is that I tell it what to do and it does it, and then we're done. And then I, check it in and merge it. No, I tell it what to do, and then I'm like, no, you did that totally wrong. Start over. And then I'm like, well, you got to kind of right that time, like, but you got to make this change and that change, and or it, does a great job. But I'm like, did you add a test? No. Did you add it to the sitemap? No. Oh, what about this file that you left behind that's no longer used? Like, so there's problems that I have to tell it to fix. Oftentimes it's, this file has gotten too long. Break it into smaller files. And if I let it go, it'll just make longer and longer and longer and longer files. And that's not what we want.
Yeah, I mean, I would build Salesforce, and then it does it, right? So even with the boilerplate, yeah, I agree that the entire project setup is probably not a one-shot, right? But I think that you clearly have the delineations here, and you can say, you know, do this step or these couple steps, and you do it incrementally. And so those are commits, right? Those are tasks to the agent. It comes back, you review, you satisfy, and then you go again with the other part of the stack until your full stack is there. Also, you got to use like current models. If it's pre-Opus 4.5, basically the models that came out in like late November, I mean, that was like the inflection point or the turning point in my opinion, personally. So prior to that, they were just semi-helpful tools, but now they can actually really work doing agentic coding for real. I mean, they write code that, I don't know, I'm not the best software engineer, but they generally write code that I'm pleased with and many times better than I would have written myself. So, but only the latest models.
Yeah, so just for the streamers, yeah, I was just saying that the latest models really do a much better job.
You could take all of those as requirements, as a technical stack that you want to build in, and probably send it to Codex and ask it to give me 10 or whatever prompts that it needs to actually implement it, and then take one prompt at a time, apply it, and you could see it building. And that really does. And essentially, instead of you needing a boilerplate code, maybe we need a boilerplate prompts.
Yeah.
I completely agree, actually. And it's like you could make skills, for instance, also with those. And so you could have your skill like for your SEO skill, and then you can just invoke your SEO skill to say like, make the project, you know, SEO friendly, and remember to install sitemap and some other stuff. So
Make the skill map a Git tree. So you can just download the branch of the skill that you want, and you just put on hats until you get the right hat stack.
So yeah, this stuff is all open conversations. These are the kind of discussions that I want to have. You're absolutely right. Maybe a boilerplate is antiquated. Maybe this would be better as a set of skills or
I think it's super handy.
prompts. Yeah.
I'm not trying
yeah.
to like
Oh,
disparage your
for
thing.
sure.
I think you did a good job. I'm just curious because you showed all these different technologies, and it seems like, you know, you see the connections between them. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying I'm open. I'm open to the ideas because I agree things are changing really fast. And so, yeah, we need new approaches as well as new tools and new boilerplates and things like that. So, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, jokes, feelings? What makes a React developer different from other people? Other people think hooks are for fishing. Ha 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 ha. Go ahead.
So, like, I'm looking, so I grabbed the Boilerplate and had it compared to the website that I have right now, and, like, it's filling up a ton of gaps, which is great. My problem is I'm already invested in Playwright really aggressively, so the idea of branching tree Git repos, where it's like, can I grab this, but then grab the Playwright version of it? Right? That's obviously not a feature right now, but that would make my job easier.
Yeah. Yes, and in fact, one part of the presentation that I skipped, so thank you for reminding me, is what to do at the very beginning. Let me pull up that SEO stuff again. How do you actually use the boilerplate? You're going to clone the repo, and then you're going to look through the features, and you're going to decide, are these features I want, or are these features I don't want? And the question was, what if I want this boilerplate, but I want to use Playwright instead of Cypress? So there are two things that you're going to do at the very, very beginning. You're going to say something like, okay, this website started as a boilerplate, but now I wanted to make it into a website about X, Y, and Z. You're going to describe the website that you want to describe the website that you want to make, and then you're going to ask it to do two things: change any features, and then also rebrand. So you'll say, please rebrand this website is no longer boilerplate because this stuff is in here, it's in the package JSON file. There's like all over the place where all of the stuff, it's written by me. You don't want your website to be the author is me. That's not right. So, but you can just ask the chat, go rebrand it, give it what the new website is about, and it'll flip out all of that static stuff. And then your next step is change features. Either pull out the login button, I don't need it. Or get rid of the API, I don't need it. Yeah. Or use Playwright instead of Cypress. And what's great about doing that at the very beginning is if we look at the Cypress implementation, it's really minor. There's like, one test? That's 20 lines long. That's all the Cypress. That's enough that if you want to use Cypress, you can build on top of that. But if you decide you want Playwright instead, there's only one file to delete or to change. So that's, normally if you had a huge set of tests saying, okay, switch from Cypress to Playwright would be a huge task because it'd have to translate every test that you have. So right at the very beginning is the time to do that stuff. Cool.
Did you consider any libraries for API calls from the client? Like Dunstat queries?
Oh, the question is, did I consider APIs, API libraries like TanStack Query? And that would be a great discussion on the list, because no, I didn't really. I would like to use GraphQL. I think that would be cool if it used GraphQL, but no, I didn't think to set that up. So yeah, we'll make a note of it. Would that be an issue? No, let's start with a discussion. Yeah, new discussion, general.
Just contributed to open source.
That's right. You're a contributor. TanStack Query, question mark. Question mark. Cool. And I can go massage that later, like, improve it, make it into something with requirements or like a more direct question. But no, it's a great idea. I mean, in GraphQL and TanStack Query, it's like on every job op, they want you to know those. So probably be good to use them on our projects.
Has anyone looked into Zero Sync at all? It's like this idea of an alternative to these things where it's an architecture where you download the data on demand and then through a WebSocket. And so basically this cache server syncs with Postgres, and then you download stuff and run like a local IndexedDB. So it's almost like you have a local copy, but it's designed so it realizes that it probably doesn't have all the data because that won't scale eventually, right? Depending on the size of your application and size and how much data the user needs. But just it's an alternative that's really interesting. I was just wondering if anyone has looked into that at all.
I have not.
But anyone here?
Is it like a sub database manager?
It's a way to manage the data for your application, for your web-based application.
So that's back-end stuff. Yeah.
It's a front-end, back-end. It's an architectural decision because it's how, like right now, like this boilerplate uses Redux, which is a really tried and true way to manage state, an application state data in your front end. But it has some drawbacks which we know about, like you're assuming you have all the data and you don't, so you have like problems there, or you need to go and check all the time, and so you have this like delay. So there's that just causes complexity, and this tries to alleviate that complexity and reduce the latency of all that stuff. It's like before in the old web, you had to go from page to page. That's like the old MapQuest way of doing things or something, right? And so then you could start having XHR requests and AJAX or whatever, and so, but you still have like the spinner problem where things are delayed. But now, if you use this other type of architecture, it's kind of like linear, how linear is so fast. It just pop, 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 because they're using the data mostly locally in like IndexedDB.
Yeah. So that, this sounds interesting. I know that data loading has had, there have been a lot of libraries. Relay comes to mind. There's been a lot of experimentation in that area. So here's another solution. Let's have a conversation about it. Absolutely. I mean, particularly if you've tried some of these things out, you can just say, like, I tried this, it was really awesome.
I'm just looking into it. That's why I asked.
Okay.
So I would love to hear other people's, thoughts.
Hey guys, thank you all. We have a.
Thank you very much, Bishop, for this discussion, and thank you so much for, opening discussion for AI stuff. It was really cool and interesting. So we have 10 minutes here, so you're welcome to stay here to discuss stuff, and we just need to leave this place till 8, and I'll start to clean up stuff. So thank you all for coming. If you didn't subscribe to meetup.com, please subscribe, and we will see you in April. If we will have some updates, like maybe the miracle will come and March meetup will happen, we will update you as well. And if you have some ideas to speak about after this meetup, please let us know. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Do people go anywhere after this and chat, or is that not a thing? Problems directly, like that's my passion plan. But I use it for a lot of content. So if I have my elements directing each other, like the bottom of the arrow, the build whole process, like not that kind of thing. Then I have that like central process. What are you working on? know very little about coding. I build stuff like this, but in like Node. Thank you.